Poland preparing $56 million aid package for Ukraine, says Tusk. UN rights chief appeals for $400 million as crises mount and funding shrinks. Machado says Venezuelan elections could happen this year, Politico reports. Machado says Venezuelan elections could happen this year, Politico reports. Activists plan new, bigger flotilla to try to bring aid to Gaza. Poland is preparing a new 200 million zloty, $55.91 million, aid package for Ukraine, mainly made up of armored equipment. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on Thursday, the 5th of February, during a visit to Kyiv. He said that Poland could give Ukraine MiG-29 fighter jets at any time, but that Volodymyr Zelensky had told him Kyiv may need other air defense equipment as a higher priority, and that he would discuss this with Polish officials and get back to the Ukrainian president about it on Monday. The United Nations human rights chief has issued an urgent appeal for funding, warning that the global human rights system is now operating in, quote, survival mode. Speaking in Geneva, Volker Turk called for $400 million to support critical operations after sharp donor cuts, including from the United States and Europe, forced the UN to scale back its work. Turk said the funding shortfall has already had serious consequences. Human rights monitoring missions have dropped to less than half of last year's level. The UN has reduced its presence in 17 countries, and around 300 jobs have been cut. Programs in crisis zones are among the hardest hit. Efforts in Myanmar have been reduced by more than 60%, while a war crimes investigation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is struggling to become fully operational. Work to combat gender-based violence and protect LGBTQ+ rights has also been slashed by up to 75%. Turk warned that weakening oversight could lead to more hate speech, rising attacks, and fewer legal protections worldwide. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has expressed optimism about holding national elections in 2026, despite political uncertainties following the U.S. capture of former President Nicolas Maduro. In a recent interview, Machado stated that a transition to democracy with manual voting could be achieved within 9 to 10 months, contingent on the commencement of the process. She emphasized the legitimacy of her leadership, citing substantial popular support and backing from the armed forces. Machado's party claims to have secured 70% of the vote in the disputed 2024 election. However, after Maduro's removal, U.S. President Donald Trump endorsed interim President Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president, over Machado. In an effort to garner support, Machado met with President Trump at the White House, presenting him with her Nobel Peace Prize medal as a symbol of gratitude for his commitment to Venezuela's freedom. Trump acknowledged the gesture, describing it as a, quote, wonderful gesture of mutual respect. Lebanon is strengthening military ties with the United States as it seeks greater international support for its armed forces and state institutions. Lebanese Armed Forces Commander General Rodolphe Haikal recently visited the U.S. Central Command headquarters in Tampa, Florida, and is expected to hold further meetings in Washington with Pentagon officials and lawmakers. The Lebanese army is leading efforts under President Joseph Aoun to disarm Hezbollah and other non-state armed groups, a plan introduced after last year's government transition and following heavy losses suffered by Hezbollah during an Israeli military campaign. The U.S. Embassy in Beirut praised the Army's work, saying that disarming militias and reinforcing national sovereignty is now more critical than ever. Activists say they are preparing a new, larger aid flotilla to Gaza after Israel intercepted a similar mission last year. Organizers announced plans to send around 100 boats, more than double the previous effort, carrying up to 1,000 medics and volunteers. The earlier flotilla of about 40 vessels was stopped by Israeli forces, with hundreds of activists detained, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. Speaking at a gathering in Johannesburg, Mandela Mandela, grandson of Nelson Mandela, urged global support for what he described as a mission for justice and dignity. Israel has dismissed such voyages as publicity stunts and insists it is not blocking humanitarian supplies, though aid groups argue that assistance entering Gaza remains far below what is needed. Activists say that even if the flotilla is intercepted again, the effort will still draw international attention to the humanitarian crisis facing Gaza's more than 2 million residents.